This is your Daily 5 for Thursday, May 14th, 2026. For the final film of this week's set of movies for Maybe It Won't Suck, Lando and I watched a movie from 1986 that I probably haven't seen since around that time or so. It is titled Eliminators, a science fiction action film by one of the giants of low-budget 80s filmmaking and 90s, and honestly a little bit beyond, the Charles Band name, which anybody who knows low-budget filmmaking, if you know Puppet Master, Full Moon Productions, that's the name you're going to know. That is a well-known name in low-budget filmmaking. And that name had me thinking that this movie was not going to hold up in many respects the way that I remembered, because I remember loving this movie when I was younger. But again, I haven't seen this now in probably almost 40 years. So a lot of things change in that time. Well, that's when it came out. I probably saw it, I would guess I saw it 2 or 3 years after it came out. So let's say it's just shy of 40 years, but I definitely have not seen it in at least 30, because I don't remember ever taking the time to watch this. I always meant to. This is one of those movies that I remember thinking, I should go back and watch this because I remember liking it so much, and Lando was the same way. So we watched it, and I will say it's not a bad movie. In fact, in many ways, it is a surprisingly good movie for a Charles Band production. I kept saying that to Lando as we were watching it, that the thing that was shocking me the most was how well this movie was working for a Charles Band production. And that's not because I think Charles Band made bad movies. He did make some, but many of them, the budget limitations were exceptionally obvious. You really could not miss them. And in this one, the costumes, the special effects, much of it is very good in a way that you just are not used to in Charles Band movies. And I like a lot of them, but you could really tell, okay, this is a low budget thing. But in here, they're really quite good. And here's the thing that really is worth noting about movies of this era and this movie in particular. Many films from this time period, there's a famous kind of thing where you would look at the box art in a video store, when those existed, and what was on the cover box art was meant to get you to rent the movie while almost never accurately representing what was in the film. So you would see a cover with this creature, a giant, monstrous, awesome-looking creature fighting a sword and sorcery guy who looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You turn the movie on, you've got a guy who's somewhat buff, but clearly not Arnold, fighting a normal-sized person in a rubber suit, because that was marketing. So you learned not to really trust this VHS box art. But in the case of Eliminators, what was on the cover art, and still is if you look it up, is a man who's a half tank, half cyborg, is prominently featured, and that's in the movie. You will see that more than once, and it is a working tank tread that he's on that's moving. And that by itself is worth noting, because that's a rarity in movies of this time. And again, everything about the movie is actually better than you would expect, especially if you're familiar with Charles Band Productions. Except the critical mistake the movie makes that almost sinks it. It doesn't. It's still worth watching, I would say. But boy, oh boy, did they choose the worst character to make the central lead. Outside of Denise Crosby, I guess co-lead is the better way. She's playing a scientist. She's perfectly good. I have no problem with Denise Crosby. I've seen a number of things outside of Star Trek. She's generally very good in them. Unfortunately, she didn't get a lot of good roles, which is too bad because she seems like a perfectly competent actress. But the guy who's the romantic co-lead, who's playing a Han Solo type, is completely wrong. Written wrong. Nothing interesting about the character. The actor, I think, is trying to do something with the material, but I'm not sure what. And so you have this kind of black hole that is one of your main characters, whereas the cyborg, who is far more interesting, is to a degree sidelined for much of the movie, and the ninja is basically wasted. So this movie, I would say it's worth watching. It's not bad. It just makes one really big mistake, and you're just going to not be able to avoid noticing it. But honestly, even having said that, 1986's Eliminators, let me tell you, if you haven't watched this in a long time, you should, because you may be shocked at how well it actually holds up. Later.